What's up, my future Slim Back family? I'm back here with another video. Today, I want to talk about why does it bother people when you're antisocial at your job? And this affects introverts, which I am an introvert. So I can speak on this. Um, but I just want to point out I am still working on part 2 of that Angie Stone video. It's coming real soon. So stay tuned for that. But it was on my spirit to talk about this because yesterday my son and we was riding to the store and I was passing by this restaurant. Well, when I was 16, it was my very first job. So it's not owned by the same people anymore. But when I was working there, it was a barbecue place and it was owned by a family. I got the job. I was so excited because I know in one of my videos I talked about the reason why I dropped out of school. It was like being big, being roasted. My mama she had her own things she was dealing with. So I really didn't try to bother her with the things I was going through. But I needed clothes. I needed more clothes than what she bought me. It was a lot of pressure not having clothes. And when she started me, I couldn't even finish the week with, and I had to wear stuff from the previous year. So I was like, okay, now I got this job. I can buy my own clothes and maybe I feel confident enough to start back going to school. So I had all these big plans. So started the job, and before I started my job, my mama gave me some advice, which she thought she was giving me really great advice. She said, "Go in there, do your job, do it well. Don't be talking and socializing to everybody. You didn't come there to socialize. You didn't come there to make friends. You there to do a job. So do your job and leave." It sounds like it would be great advice, but it wasn't. I went there, did my job, did it well, and I didn't talk to people unless if it's job related. If I had questions or anything like that, that's the only time I would talk to people. Anything not job related, I didn't talk to nobody about it. I would speak to people when I walked in, but that was basically it. I would speak. I wasn't rude. If someone asked me a question, I would answer it. And like I said, I only talked about job related things. I worked there like 2 weeks. Come to work, the his daughter told me that her daddy took me off the schedule. And I was like, why? And she really didn't have a what she said didn't make sense. She said I left before I supposed to or whatever. And I left at the same time I always leave. I clean up. I would close. I would work from like 3 to closing, something like that. And then I would clean up and then I would leave. I was a dishwasher. Who don't feel good saying that? But I was 16. Okay. So yeah, so after every dish was brought to me, I would clean it. Then I wiped down everything, swept, mopped, everything. And once everything was clean and they was clearing out, then I know to call my mama to come get me. And that was the way it was. So that was crap that he said I left before I supposed to. So I had reached out to the owner that took me off the schedule, and he said, you don't talk to anyone when they ask you questions, you ignore them. And I said, that is not true. Um, well, the people that work for me and been working for me for a long time, they don't tell lies. So at that point, I knew he was a piece of, and a racist. And I didn't want to work for nobody like that. So that's what I wouldn't even bother by it anymore. I was just like, okay, I'll move on because he's stupid. Um, and so yeah, so he basically admitted that I didn't talk to anyone and I was antisocial, but he had to lie and make it seem like it affected the work performance because people would ask me questions and I would ignore them. He had to make it make sense. He knew firing me for that reason was stupid. So he had to make it make some kind of sense. I'm not saying I just ignore people who ask me questions because he couldn't say you don't talk to people. That would sound crazy. So that's why he threw in people ask you questions and you just ignore them, which was a bunch of BS. He knew it was BS. But I didn't sit up and ignore anytime someone asked me a question, I answered it. Anytime I had a question, I would ask someone. Like I said, I only talked to people if it was job related. And when I came to work, I spoke. And when I left, I was let them know I'm leaving. So yeah, it was his place of business. He was the owner, so if he don't want you there, you ain't gonna be there. So I just had to accept it. I knew one of the cooks, and he was married to one of my cousins, and he was a much older guy. And he was honest. He told it like it was. He was like, that man wanted you gone because you didn't talk to nobody because you were antisocial. So I remember when I called my mama to come get me because I had to call her right back. And I waited. He came out there and he was telling my mom, he was like, she did her job. She did everything she's supposed to do. He didn't like the fact that she didn't talk. Now, this man used to talk. He was very sociable. When this man went to jail, the man that I worked for would go and get him out of jail to bring him on back because he worked and they felt comfortable with him because he talked to everybody. The man I worked for that owned the barbecue place was Caucasian. Which at first I thought that was the reason. I was like, okay, yeah, they say Caucasians have a problem with you being antisocial. And I believed that till I worked my second job. When I worked my second job, it was KFC. I am an introvert. So I just was not gonna talk if it's not job related. And then I was thinking, okay, these are black people. I don't think they'll have a problem with me being antisocial. But the place was so doggone messy. And I come there and not talking. And I just felt that I could feel the vibe, like the tension. Like they had something against me. And I'm like, I ain't did nothing to nobody here. What's the problem? But it was just so messy and toxic, and I didn't have much to say, and they didn't like that. And these were black people. And I remember a girl that worked there, she said, I'm gonna just give her a fake name. Teresa. The manager was named Teresa. She told me, she said, Teresa said she gonna fire you. And I was like, why? I come to work on time, I do my job, and I leave. What's the problem? I don't know what the reason was. She said she gonna fire you. So, one day I was working and the assistant manager was there and she was on the phone with Teresa. And she said, Teresa said you can clock out and go home. And it was way before I supposed to have clocked that. So, I had called because that was around the time when they was gonna make out the schedule. So I called to see when do I come in. They had me down for one day out the week. So I was like, and I ain't gonna let them play in my face like that. They want me gone. I'll leave. Hell, it's just a restaurant job. I'll find another one. And every job I had was like that. They just didn't like the fact that you talk. It didn't matter if they was white. It didn't matter if they was black. It don't matter who I worked around. They did not like the fact that I was an introvert, which I'm going to say to them antisocial. They didn't like that. It don't matter what you do, how hard of a worker you are. You know, if you working around missing people, they don't like that. And I just want to know why. Why would it bother somebody to work with a person that don't talk, but they do their job, but they antisocial, and they just don't have a whole lot to say unless it's job related. They really seem to be triggered by that, and to this day, I don't know. I can't figure that out, and so that's why, like I said, I did a video about my son and the reason why I only can make money at the house. I cannot go to a physical job. Is like leaving a toddler home by themselves, even though he's an adult. I explained that. So while I'm here at home trying to figure out solutions, I'm trying to learn everything I can learn far as how to make money. I'm trying to get all the training I can so I won't have to deal with people like that, because these were not high paying jobs. Now, anyone who has a high paying job, I'm thinking it may be less toxic. Maybe. And I'm not the only person who experienced this. A friend of mine was telling me how she got treated. She was working at a convenience store, and she was there to do her job. She talked to the customers when they talked to her, and she was respectful to the customers. And like, she was there, she knew she was there to do a job. She wasn't there to make any friends or anything like that. And she felt like the manager had something against her for some reason. They couldn't point out, or they couldn't complain about her work performance. Her work performance was excellent. And one day, she said a woman walked in, and she asked the woman a question, like, you need help with something? Because the woman was looking like she confused. It was something she asked. And the woman was like, got real smart with her and said she'll come over there and slap the glasses off her face, and just was doing too much. And she said she didn't even let it get to her. She just lay her like, yeah, I try it if you want to. You know, she just responded like that. And I asked her, I said, where was the manager? And she said the manager had her back turned, putting stuff on the aisle. I said, I believe she had something to do with it. Who sent that woman? I believe that woman was sent. And not only that, they got rid of her when she was working at the convenience store, because they lied on her and said the head people who owned the convenience store that called her in for a meeting. And they said, you was really mean to a customer. She said you was mean to her kids. You was so mean her kids started crying. And this is a customer we had for a long time, a very loyal customer, and we can't have you treating our customers like that, so we gotta let you go. And I knew it was a lie because I know my friend. I mean, she loved kids. She go out her way to acknowledge kids. And I know she wouldn't be mean to somebody's kids just for no reason. I don't believe that. And I know she would have told me about it if it happened. Like, say for example, if that did happen. Well, I caught him stealing. And so I asked him, what you got in your pocket? I could see if it was something like that, but it wasn't. So for just her to go out her way being mean to kids, I knew it was a lie. I said, well, you should have asked them. Well, I think she did ask them to pull the tape, and they had an excuse for that. I said, You know, I told her, I said, you know what I would have told them? I would have said, okay, if this customer says this, can we have a meeting with this customer? We can all sit down with this customer and this customer can explain to me what I did. At least give me that. She said she wasn't thinking to say that. She was able to get her unemployment. She was able to get that. I know her, she's hardworking. So I know the only problem they had with her is that she was quiet. And I'm gonna be honest, my friend, she give out this kind of vibe, like this intimidating vibe. Her silence intimidated them. So I know that's the reason why they plotted that to get rid of her. Why are people so bothered by introverts on a job? Or you might not be an introvert. You just antisocial, or you just might not like the people you work with. And that's fine too. But you dare to do a job, and if you do it and do it well, what's the problem?